Hey guys, Jeffries here, and welcome back to the Jeffries network on OpenTTD. And we are back here at Fort Poobra, which is the current junction on our new main line that we've been building over the last few episodes. Today we're going to continue expanding to the north. So, we've currently gone off this way and to the west, sort of to the northwest really, with where it ends up. And you can see the diverging line here that carries on going straight to the north. And that's where we're heading today. So once again, I'm very happy that I pre-planned the majority of this line a little while ago. I really like the way that I did that, purely accidental as well. I was messing around with the plan design and just thought, oh, I can actually design a full line. So I did that a couple of times, and it just means that I don't have to do it on camera, and I don't have to do it in the middle of an episode and end up boring you people, you lovely people who watch my videos. It just means, yeah, as I say, I can get this done a lot quicker then, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who appreciate that. You know, as much as when I'm watching videos, I don't mind watching the design phase. You know, I do feel sometimes it's quite useful to see the process that people go through to actually get to a finished product. Being an ex-engineering student, that was kind of, we had a lot of assignments where you have to go from a beginning plan to a finished product sort of in a space of time, so you have to develop the whole thing from start to finish. I'm really not doing a good job of explaining myself again. That should be a thing of mine, you know, one of those traits that you can pick up from certain individuals. Mine is definitely an inability to explain himself properly. When I was studying engineering, we were given assignments to create products. So one of them was a bridge. We had to build a bridge, which doesn't sound that difficult until we then found out that the last task of the assignment would be a weights contest. Which bridge could carry the most weight? Our bridge didn't do very well. Should also point out the bridges had to be made of balsa wood, which would probably explain why our bridge didn't do very well. But it didn't do very well. But we had to show from start to finish how we got from like a preliminary design to a finished product. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. I like to see how people get from original ideas to finished products. Some people don't like that. And I've sort of taken a vote on your behalf and sort of said that you don't mind seeing it, but you sort of prefer it if I know what I'm doing. That's the general consensus that I've picked up from comments in the past, which is fine. I haven't got a problem with that. In fact, that helps me more than anything, really, because it makes me get my backside in gear and actually do a better job of planning out episodes. So I'm quite grateful in that respect. But yeah, what I'm basically trying to say is I like planning out the lines in advance. I can do it off camera and then just talk you through it afterwards, and it makes my life a lot easier, and it makes the videos a lot nicer, and I'm sure you guys agree with that as well. This line isn't as long as I thought it was going to be, but I guess we're going to have another interchange station here. Where is, now this is going to be difficult to work out. If I keep coming along this way, okay, I've had an idea. I've had an idea, guys. And I'm sure you can tell what that idea is just by the way I was surveying that landscape. But I have indeed had an idea. In terms of the trains from last episode, I've done some surveying off camera between this episode and yesterday's, and I'm quite happy with how things are going. I did do what I said I was going to do and make it an all-stopping service. I added some crossovers so that the semi-fast can avoid the slow trains, but really I've made it unrealistic because I've just put crossovers wherever the stations are, and that's not really what it's like in real life. In real life, there are crossovers where they're where they're needed, nowhere else. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tweak that, and I'll probably do that today because then I can talk you through what my idea is. It involves rebuilding some stations as well. So it's quite a hefty project, which is why I kind of want you guys with me whilst I'm doing it, so I can talk you through it. Because, yet again, it's a unique, brand new idea that I've had that I haven't seen many other people do. I do constantly check on YouTube to see if there are other people out there who are doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to claim that I'm the only one when I'm really not. To my knowledge, and again I could be wrong, if I am wrong please let me know, because I would love to find some like-minded people out there, but to my knowledge I am the only person on YouTube who is doing this kind of setup. I don't want to use the phrase roleplay because it doesn't sound right in the context of OpenTTD, but it is basically role-playing. I'm creating a scenario in which I'm network rail, basically. I build the lines, and then I set the service frequency, which of course the franchises are actually in charge of in real life, but on here it's down to me. I get the trains and I set them off. So I'm sort of playing the role of network rail and the franchises, in so much as I build the rail and then I also control the trains. Obviously, there are lots of forms of transport on this game. There isn't just rail, and a lot of those other forms of transport have been neglected as we're focusing on rail. But I want to get as much of this done as possible now, before the towns expand, so that when I come to build my mass transit, especially around Guard City, which will be happening the week after next, because obviously next week is my week off, so the week after that I will be back in Guard City. So Reedy Reed will have some map work to do as I start building new metro lines and tram lines and bus lines, although I'm not sure if bus lines don't usually appear on that sort of map, so I don't think that will be going on, but the other stuff definitely will be. And yeah, it should be quite interesting to see how we get on in Guard City now. Obviously we have to have a metro line that links up the main stations if possible, as many of the main stations as possible. So Guard City Exchange currently is a 4-platform station right outside what is essentially a village in the middle of nowhere. That will change. That will definitely change, because as I say, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's not exactly a bustling metropolis, but I think it was George Silva who suggested Guard City Exchange. Yeah, it was. As you know, it's going to become a massive station. In fact, one of the comments that I replied to about Guard City Exchange, I didn't do a very good job of explaining what I wanted it to be, because I was sitting there saying it's going to be like this station and it's going to be like this station. And then I suddenly thought, oh, it's also going to be like this one. I suppose I should write that down as well. And before you know it, I've basically compared it to about 7 or 8 stations in London. But Guard City Exchange is going to be a cross between London Bridge, Waterloo, Farringdon, and I used King's Cross St Pancras as an example, but I think that comparison will go elsewhere once the actual station is completed. I've completely forgot my words then. Once the actual station is completed, it will probably be different to King's Cross St Pancras, but definitely compared to London Bridge is fair, and Waterloo, in that we've got like a Waterloo East kind of vibe going on with the current station. For those of you who don't know, there are 2 stations at Waterloo. There is Waterloo, which used to be Waterloo International, and there's Waterloo East, which is literally outside the door of Waterloo. They're sort of the same station, but they're also not. They're on different lines. So Waterloo East is on the line to Charing Cross, and Waterloo is on the main lines down to the south of England, and to the west of England. Or the west of London, I should say. Not so much England, but London definitely. But the two stations are separate. They are separate stations, but they are technically linked. So Waterloo East doesn't have numbered platforms. It has lettered platforms, so that you don't get confused with Waterloo Station, which I think's quite a cool idea. Similar thing at St Pancras with the Thameslink platforms. They are lettered rather than numbered. So that's cool. Got nothing wrong with that. Why would I? That's a weird thing to have an issue with. But I kind of see that with Guard City Exchange right now. The 2 platforms, or the 4 platforms that we've currently got, I see as being like Waterloo East, because Waterloo East is also 4 platforms. And the rest of the station, which hasn't been built yet, will be built to similar specs to Waterloo. So it'll be a big station. Waterloo, if you don't know, is the busiest station in London in terms of passengers and in terms of trains. Although Farringdon will take the title in the trains of the trains, because again, I believe the information supplied to me by you guys was there will be a train every 20 seconds, I think, which is unbelievable. It might not sound like much, sort of out loud, but when you consider the fact that, you know, there's 5, hang on, underground, there's 3 lines on the underground that go through Farringdon, and there's Thameslink and there's Crossrail. So there are 5 different lines that service Farringdon. A train every 20 seconds on what is really only 3 rail lines as well, because it's 5 services but only 3 lines, if that makes sense. There's only 3 actual rail lines that go through Farringdon. The rest of it is shared. So, as I say, there's 3 underground lines: the Metropolitan, the Circle, and Hammersmith and City. They all share tracks going through Farringdon. In fact, they share tracks from Baker Street right the way through to... Right, the Metropolitan terminates at Aldgate, which is where the Circle line goes through. I think it's Liverpool Street. Where's my phone? Don't tell me in the comments, because I'm about to look it up now. Oh yeah, it's Liverpool Street. That's a good guess. Because the Hammersmith and City curves off towards Aldgate East, and the Metropolitan and Circle line continue to Aldgate, which, as I said, is where the Metropolitan line terminates. Interestingly, we talk about busy stations. Clapham Junction is the busiest station in terms of trains, actually. I should have known that. So that's false what I just said about Waterloo. But Waterloo is the busiest station in England, to my knowledge, in terms of number of passengers. But Clapham Junction is the busiest in terms of trains. But the busiest actual junction, not station, but actual junction, is Aldgate. And again, you might think, really? But it's the whole triangular junction around Aldgate, because you've got Metropolitan line trains, you've got Hammersmith and City line trains, you've got Circle line trains and District line trains, all using that triangle junction. They don't use all 3 sides. All 3 sides are used, but not by the same service. But it's a very, very busy part of the London Underground network. I think that's like a train every 20 seconds as well, which is, considering it's a flat crossing, the calculations that must go into making sure that trains can just run and not be held up by each other. That must be awesome to actually be in charge of. Bloody pain in the neck as well, I imagine, but very cool at the same time. I just want to check the status of these signals, because they're very offset. Yeah, I think I've put this one in the wrong place. Let's get rid of you. Make sure that they're all gone. So I think I put it there. I think this one needs to go there for them to line up. Is that what I had before? No. Now suddenly they line up. Okay. I'll take that, even though they then go offset again here. Wow, they go very offset here. That doesn't seem right. It should be offset by 1. I'm just going to go back to how it was. So, you're there. This one will go there. Like so. I guess because there's a bigger gap. Oh, hang on. I know what it is. It is what I was thinking. There's a bigger gap here. Let's do this properly. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, you go there. Now they should all be offset by 1. No, they're offset by 2. I'm just not going to bother worrying about that. We're going to take this up to 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You there. Which means you there. For those of you who are wondering why I count diagonals twice, it's because 2 diagonals is the same length as 1 full tile. Roughly. I don't think it quite works out because the way triangles work, but there you go, they're offset by 1. So it kind of works out. It's better than nothing, I always say. Right, so we've got this very interesting section of line here through the hills. Once again, like, we've got this real flat section through plains where it is just completely flat, and then you suddenly have these massive hills. It's very interesting. Probably not for you guys, you're sat there wondering what the hell I'm on about, but for me, I find it quite interesting. We're now going to build another station, as I'm sure you know, and the reason I was surveying is because we can now have a connection here over to that other interchange station that we built day before yesterday, I think. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. In fact, I've built that one too long. We'll fix that in a second. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So, yeah. That's going to happen. I'm all about building these big sort of connecting lines now. Let's put the underpasses here. Whether it's going to be 2-track or 4, I haven't 100% decided yet, but I definitely know that it's going to be a connecting line. I've been doing a lot of research into railways in the UK, both past and current. So, for example, there is currently a rail link being proposed called the East-West link, which is going to connect Oxford to Cambridge, essentially. That's its main purpose, but there are loads of other towns and cities that are going to be connected. So, for example, Cambridge to Milton Keynes, Oxford to Milton Keynes to Bedford, loads of that sort of thing going on. And the main plan at the moment is to sort of rebuild old lines to a certain extent, but reuse old lines as well. So there's a couple of lines that have been mothballed, just left, but the track bed is still in place. In fact, in some cases, the track itself is also still in place, which again is pretty interesting to see that a lot of these routes were closed during the 60s, but the track itself wasn't removed. And the reason the routes were closed was for money-saving purposes, and yet they left the track down, which is really... you might be thinking, well, why is that important? But when you think about it, if they're leaving that track there, then in future when other lines need their track upgraded, they'll be either sourcing it from elsewhere, or they'll be buying it new. When there's actually a perfectly good source of track just sat there not being used. Sort of makes sense to reuse that first. Obviously that then means digging up the track, which I'm not a big fan of, but when it comes to cost cutting, etc., that's the kind of thing you want to be doing. Anyway, not for me to say. I just find it interesting that they're reusing these old routes. I think it's good. Again, it goes back to what I've been saying all along to do with the beaching cuts. These old routes were still useful, and their usefulness wasn't really calculated at the time, whereas now current governments are starting to see their usefulness again, and are campaigning quite profusely to have these lines reinstated, which is good news for everybody, really, because they get their railway line back. But new lines are being built. There's one called the Bicester Cord, which is going in, which means that Chiltern services from Marylebone are now able to run to Oxford, or run a second service to Oxford. I think they already had a route, but now they've got another one. There's also a new section of track going in between Milton Keynes and Bedford. Again, I'm trying to remember my research, and I'm forgetting my research as I'm trying to remember it. I do research, guys, I promise. It does happen. I do a lot of research. I spend ages reading things up. Reading up on things. Reading things up isn't even a grammatically correct sentence. I don't know where that came from. But I spend ages reading up on things, and way longer than a normal person should, really. Hours and hours and hours I spend poring over articles to do with these different railways. But the East-West link is an interesting one. Another interesting one is what is going on in Manchester, as I said, with the Orsdale curve. There's loads of new sort of cord lines being built. There was one built recently in the east of England, which meant freight trains this was built for, but it means they didn't have to reverse at Ipswich anymore, which is quite cool, because that is a futile manoeuvre, really, to have to go into what is essentially a passenger station to change direction when you're a freight train. Bit of an inconvenience for most people. Takes up a valuable path on the route, so that's been fixed. There's a lot going on in the UK rail industry right now. But actually, let me check this quickly. I had the east-west link open. I don't have it open anymore. That's annoying. I had it open on my phone. I was reading about it. But it, as I say, it involves linking up Oxford to Cambridge via rail, which will also allow trains from the west of England to serve the east of England. That's basically what it's there for. There's a company in England called Cross Country, and they run, as the name suggests, cross-country services. So they run the longest passenger train they run the longest passenger service. They don't run the longest passenger train. They run voyages from Aberdeen to Penzance, which is 850 something miles, I believe. Which, as I say, is the longest rail route in the country by quite a distance as well. To put that in context, Aberdeen to London, which is the longest that Virgin do, is 500 and something miles. So it's almost 300 miles longer than that, if not 300 miles longer than that. It's an insanely long journey, and it's done by one train. The whole journey is done by one train. Obviously there's more than one train running the service, but it's not like you have to get off and change train or anything like that. You can stay on that train for the entire journey. It is a very, very long way. But I mean, I'd like to replicate that on here as well. But Cross Country operate from east to west, and they also operate from north to south. They go across the country. They are one of the companies that are expected to use this new east-west link. I firmly believe they will. There's no reason why they wouldn't. It's not like it's up in the air or anything. What I mean by that is nothing's set in stone regarding that yet. It's still possible that it's still possible that the route might not be built to the way it's been designed still. It looks very much like it will go ahead as planned, but you never know in the rail industry. Things change constantly. Things get put back, they get delayed, they get cancelled. Welcome to Britain is all I can say about that. You know, there's loads of projects that have been started even but never finished. If you go around the country, you'll find sort of old tunnels and bridges and stations for rail lines that were never finished. You know, they were started, but then reasons came up why. It's usually to do with lack of funding. Back in the old Victorian pioneering days, lack of funding meant that a project would just grind to a halt and wouldn't be completed until either the money came in or someone else came in and took over. In many cases, they were never finished at all. But again, to go back on point, because I keep distracting myself, Cross Country are one of the companies expected to use this new east-west link. Chiltern Railways are also expected to use it. Greater Anglia are expected to use it. Loads of these different companies that are expected to use this new link. There's a very good chance that maybe even new franchises will come in and take over certain routes as well. We don't know yet. As we know that the tendering process in England is very up in the air. I wish there was an easier way of describing it, really. It's like playing Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo at times, with regards to who actually wins it. They all make pledges, and there is a process. There is a process for these companies being chosen. But from the way I see it, there's no logical reason why one company wins over the other. Because sometimes it's just about who's offering to pay the government the most money. It's got nothing to do with the services they're offering or anything like that. It's just who's paying the most money. But again, that's politics, and I really don't want to be getting into politics. They say there's two things that a YouTuber shouldn't talk about in their videos: politics and religion. I'm not that into religion. I'm not interested in religion pretty much at all. So I tend to stick to the politics, which I also shouldn't do, because it's, as I say, there's two things you should not talk about as a YouTuber. Mostly because it causes conflict. That's the only real reason. There's There's no other logical reason as to why you shouldn't do it. It's just it causes conflict, and it's better to not do that. But, you know, I tend to stay fairly open-minded when it comes to politics. The way I see it is, I don't have a favourite political party. I hate them all equally. They're all useless as far as I'm concerned. They all make fake promises, false promises, whatever you want to call it. They very rarely deliver on what they say they will do. Especially when it comes to elections, we have people knocking on the door asking if we can count on their vote. And just a number of times I either want to slam the door in their face or tell them exactly the reasons why I will not be voting for them. It's very, very flawed. I think it's the best way of saying it. The British political system is broken. But, as I say, I'm not going to talk about politics anymore. It bores me, and I'm pretty sure it bores you too. What I am going to do is build this little link here. So we can actually get trains going into a new terminus platform. So let's see. You're going to go to there, you're going to go to there, you're going to go to there. And the rest of these are going to remain as so. So you are 1 for 30, this one here is 130, and this one here is 110. This is going to be changed to that. This one here is going to be changed to that. This one here is going to be upgraded, as is this one, because we're going to put the other connection in here. Just so that they're side by side, we're going to pop that connection there. We also need to put a signal there and a signal there. And finally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you go there, which means this one will go under there. There we are. Right. The last thing to do is to move this waypoint. So we're going to pop that there for Peterborough Terminus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, it's the right length. Get rid of you, get rid of you. Perfect. So that now gets the terminating trains off the main line. There's no particular reason why I felt the need to do that. Just, I guess with some of these main stations, it's nice to have a specific platform for terminating trains rather than have to have them take up valuable platform space in other parts of the station. Right, the next thing I want to do in this episode, and there's a couple of things I want to do still before we end, which again means this episode is going to be slightly longer than I want it to be, but I want to get this done now. So I'm going to come back all the way back here, down to, let's see, there's a crossover somewhere that I'm trying to find. It's not that one. That's fine. It must be up here somewhere. Ah, there's one. So the other one must be there. Good. Right, there's the train that I want to select. Wait for the autosave. There it is. We're losing money at the moment as well, which I'm not particularly... Did I think I switched auto renew back on. Yeah, I did. Just because we were losing a lot of money. It wasn't really working. But we are losing money. What's causing that? Construction is probably the reason we're losing money here, and new vehicles. So the running cost is going up. The income is going down for trains. We'll have to lift that up again. That'll come back in time. Obviously this service needs extending still. Right, so I'm going to select this like so. And we're going to make some tweaks to this station here, for example. Basically, the capacity on the high-speed lines is very, very large, as you can tell by the fact that we've got some trains running on it, and yet there's moss growing on the line. So we want to get the frequency of this up. We also want to get the semi-fast and the stopping trains off the same line. So if I select this again, we'll sort of follow it along and we'll see where the stations are, because I believe what we can do, maybe not so much here, but further down the line. I'm going to remove these crossovers though, because they were a pretty stupid idea. At the time I just wanted to get the timetable auto-filled properly, but it really isn't realistic. That's the wrong way. It really isn't realistic. It's poor from me, to say the least. I let myself down a little bit on this, trying to get these stupid crossovers built. Especially now the fact that I have to go find them again and change them all back is a massive pain. It's not like there's even a search option where I can just go search for crossovers, find them and then get rid of them. No, doesn't work like that. Alright, we're going to change you, we're going to change you. There should be another set up here somewhere. Not here, but the next stopping station. Is it this one? Does this train stop here? It does. So is there a crossover somewhere? Have I missed it? Maybe not. Oh, yeah, I think they go through this one still. So the crossover must be... No, there isn't one. Oh, I don't think I put one there because it was so close to the main station. Okay, so we'll come down this way and there should be some more crossovers that we have to get rid of. And again, I've let myself down with this stupid idea. One of the worst ideas I've ever had. At least here the signals are all lined up, so I don't have to worry too much. Oh, Adobe says I've got 8 updates available. That's nice. Maybe when I actually start using Adobe again, when I go back to uni, I might use those updates. That's the thing. I got the Creative Cloud, which is fantastic, by the way. But I only ever really use it for university stuff. I use Photoshop for my thumbnails, and I use... well, I will be using Dreamweaver to create my new website. Although I will have to teach myself how to use Dreamweaver first of all, but it shouldn't be too difficult, I hope. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, everything else I only really use when I'm at uni. So I got the student version, or I got the student rates for it, which is fantastic as well. If you're a student and you want Adobe, I would recommend it. No sponsorship here, unfortunately, but you know, I do recommend lots of cool pieces of software and lots of cool just PC stuff in general, because it's all very, very good. Recommend games, for example. I recommend OpenTTD. It's free. Why wouldn't you download a free game? I don't even think it takes up that much space on your hard disk, so there's no excuses. If you like this type of game, then download it. That's all I can say on that. Right. There's even more crossovers, and also this is like a mothballed line. You wouldn't think it's a main line, would you? It's poor. The number of moss. In fact, I don't think I built crossovers on this section because there's only these trains being used. Great. Okay, that makes my life easier. So we're going to go all the way back to GSG, and we're going to plan this out properly, so that there are real life crossovers. And then I'm going to go off camera and do the same treatment to this line, because we fell for the same thing. I've put crossovers in where perhaps there shouldn't be any. You're not going into that. No. It looked like you were going into the wrong platform then, but that's fine. You're going into the right one. Okay. So you don't stop at this station, do you? You don't. But the trains should be spaced out enough that that's not an issue. What I want to happen is, this is the first stop here at Suntbridge Valley. Again, there should be enough space. In fact, there you are. You're at Suntbridge Valley now. Okay, after Suntbridge, your next stop is Great Punning Hall. So I think what I'm going to do here at Suntbridge Valley is start putting... So I'm going to put a crossover in here, and I'm going to put a crossover in here, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side but further down the line. So a crossover here and a crossover here. Just like that. Okay. And then so you don't stop at Great Punning Hall. No, you do stop at Great Punning Hall, don't you? Let me just check this. Right, Suntbridge Valley. Cross over there. You go through here, you go through here. You don't stop at Great Punning Hall, but you do stop at Trundingworth. So what I'm going to do at Trundingworth is I'm going to build a new island platform. to 6 length so that this train can stop here. And I'm going to build it. I'm going to pop you there for a start. So you're facing the wrong way, but then the subway will sort of go underneath those 2 sets of tiles, so it should still work out. 3, 4, 5, 6. So this train now should stop at these centre platforms, hopefully. And the express train should carry on through there anyway, because it's not for them to stop at anyway. Right. Barnway on Sea South, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to put in an underpass, set of stairs, not that way round, but this way round. A schedule there. CTA, benches, and I think we'll put a shelter on this side and just a planter on this side. So again, you will now stop on the centre track. And we'll keep this going through Marfingley Market, but after Marfingley, I think we'll have you go on the slow lines again for a little bit, because your next stop here is at Fenningston. And then you also stop at Fetborough. Now Fetborough I think will be the next one where I will make it crossover, but I'll put the crossover here, or at least in this direction. I'll put the crossover here, just so again it's it's a fair way away, just to make sure that it definitely goes into the right platform. Sorry, I lost my chain of thought again as I was... Is it chain or train? I think it's train of thought, which is quite ironic. I lost what I was saying as I was in the middle of the sentence. I do that. I'm going to start doing that more, because I find myself panicking slightly when I get stuck in the middle of a sentence and end up saying something really confusing and stupid. But in future, I'm just going to stop talking if I get messed up. Not messed up, you know what I mean. If I get confused, that's where I should have stopped talking. Just so that, yeah. Basically, yeah. Right, that's going to go there. You're going to go there. Benches, yep. And station name, why not? So Fetborough is now also upgraded, if you can call it an upgrade. I suppose it is in a way. Fondingville you don't stop at, nor do you stop at Plardhatton, but you do stop at Playthingburg Springs. So again, we're going to upgrade this platform. We're going to whack a shelter down there. We're going to put the underpass in as well. Underpasses are so much easier. Actually, some of these stations I could change it to a bridge now, can't I? Might do that. I might do that. Let's see. I don't want to do it like this. I want to use this type. So we'll put you in like that, and we'll put you in like that. Does that work? Not really. Suppose we'll have to go for the double. I don't really get why you would have a double bridge though. That's what confuses me. Like, that doesn't feel very realistic to me. But hey ho. I mean, that looks alright. I could live with that. Right, and then you come up here to Fort Pooborough. Now, lazy me would stop here, but I think what I should do really is continue this trend on. So you don't stop at Sufingburg, I think it is. But you do stop at Fredtown. So I think if I have Fredtown on the slow lines again, but there's a station down here, Inverhill, yeah. If I put a crossover just after Fredtown, so let's see, if I put you there, and if I put you there, that's a new crossover. Like that. And then I'll put the return one. See, there would be a good spot, but I don't want to do the... Yeah, this one works. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Okay, we will have to do it up here then. Let's see. Here's probably a good spot, actually. If I pop you there, and if I pop you there. Like that, and like that. Again, something else I'm going to have to do is put waypoints before and after the junctions so that it slows down to a realistic speed as well. Which again, you don't see very often, but you don't see it often on the game, I should say. In real life, you see it all the time. That's kind of how this sort of thing works. You know, trains slow down. I think it's 75 miles per hour for the crossovers on the East Coast main line. I don't know what it is on the West Coast. I'm going to get rid of this waypoint then, because we don't really need it. No, we don't really need it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Which means I have to go into here, and I have to scroll down to... where are you? There. Get rid of. Which means I'm going to have to autofill this again. The train's already running late, because for some reason these trains are running late. Why are you running late? You're only supposed to stop for 2:50. Well, you're running on time, it says. Not sure if I can agree with that. I might need to upgrade those trains, because they only go 75 miles an hour, which is a massive pain in the backside. Massive pain in the backside. Anyway, select you again, so we get the stopping thing come up. So again, I'm going to assume that it will be on the fast line for this section. So Trepberg, yeah, we'll build some platforms at Trepberg. Why the heck not? I might go for lazy platforms here though. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go for lazy platforms here. Sort of lazy platforms here. That, and that. I'm going to rebuild this with a bridge. So I'm going to put the bridge in there. This will go as that type, and then I'll put just a planter here again. Go to the single-sided, find the bridges. So you go there. This one go there. And what should we put instead of... we'll put station signs where the old underpasses were. So you there, and you there. Cool. Cool. And then terminate. Good. Right. You might also notice that I haven't yet put more trains on this service yet. And that's no. That's purely down to the fact that I haven't actually progressed the game that much since last episode. I can get it ready to clone now, and I'll do it off camera. But in terms of this episode, guys, we are pretty much at the end. Once again, long episode. We've done lots of stuff. Hopefully, you guys are still with me on this, and you still like what I'm doing. I think what I'm doing is going to be fairly successful once it actually gets off the ground and properly gets going. These crossovers are in very strategic locations now, so I'm quite pleased about that. It will also help with freight trains, moving freight trains around the country. Just having these crossovers. They're in strategic locations in terms of real life as well, because... where are we? Here, for example, you've got these two sets of crossovers. What would actually happen in real life would be this one will come across, and then this one will come across, this one will come across, and then it will go back the other way. And I could actually replicate that if I just drew these across like that. And then here you would have the return. So let's see if I can actually do that. Let's get rid of you. And we'll pop that there. Which means we'll change this one back to what it was. These two will remain path signals. But this one, where is it? This one here will have to be upgraded, as will this one here. And so will this one here. But that then means I can get rid of that crossover there and that crossover there. And that's actually how it's done in real life. Obviously there aren't signals there, so I might have to get rid of those signals as well. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This section here is long enough to hold a train, so I'm okay with that signal remaining. But the rest of these, yeah, we'll get rid of that. Actually, I've done that wrong as well. That one gets changed. That one doesn't. There we are. That's better. That's how a real-life crossover would look. So I might go around and make them like this on the other main line, as well as further down this way. Or I might just leave them as they are. But anyway, as I say guys, this is the end of this episode. 45 minutes, that's not too bad, I can live with that. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop a comment down below for ideas for future episodes, and until next time, I will see you soon.